Good morning. Welcome to On the Bench. I am your host for this episode, Brendan Sonnone. I'm joined by Zach Blostein, Chris Nee. Chris, welcome back to the eastern seaboard of the United States. Hopefully your travels were well.
It went fine.
Other than the football game.
Other than that.
Buyer Sonnone, sponsored by
The Turner Group.
Ghirardelli Chocolate.
Oh, it's great. I love the place. It's a regular stop in Orlando, but going to the original was well worth it.
Bye.
Yeah, definitely.
I know we're waking up here. Play the game.
In the morning, synapses aren't going yet. I haven't had coffee. I had 2 cups of water. That's it.
Have we all pooped this morning? I have.
It's a family.
Yes. I'm Brett in the back. Hang on. Let's bring Brett here real quick. Brett. All right, let's go. All right, let's get into it, guys. This is going to be a tale of two timelines type of podcast as we're recording this a little bit before 7:30 on Monday morning. Obviously, we know what happened with Stanford. Real quick before I go any further, shout out to Chattanooga Whiskey as well as the Turner Group, 2 awesome sponsors. You guys know the spiel at this point. Let me get focused and get us on track here. FSU goes to Stanford, loses 20-13. Chris, I just need to say it up front. We're not going to do a game recap. All right. It was
I'm good with that.
Okay.
It was shitty enough to live the first time. Sorry, kid show.
Nope, shit show. Let's all say it. Shit show. Zach, get it all out of the way.
All
right, never mind. No, too late. We moved past it. It was bad. It was awful. It was your 4th loss in ACC play. FSU is now 5-15 in Mike Norvell's last 20 games. Lost 9 ACC games in a row. We're here to where this is no longer, forget sustainable. I think we're at the point where it's just not acceptable. And we've talked about the last podcast. This isn't personal. I think we all have people on this coaching staff, including Mike Norvell, who we like and respect and hold in high regards as people. It's a business. It's a failing business for Florida State, and that's going to get us to what happens next. And I think business and things that go beyond, for me personally, the scope of what I love covering, which is football and evaluations and stuff, is going to go beyond that as we get into what happens next. But basically, guys, 2 different timelines that we've been operating under as we've been trying to pull our sources, report information. It was kind of quiet yesterday morning. Makes sense. The team was not even back. The team playing right before 10 a.m. Chris is traveling and making calls and text. Zach and I are working, and I was on campus on and off yesterday just to kind of keep an eye on what was happening. It was a coaches meeting that Zach reported, but planned one. Anyways, this is all to say the 2 different timelines that we're working on is one in which we think Mike Norvell is fired today, and one in which Florida State basically does not a vote of confidence, but an acknowledgement that this isn't working very well, but they'll continue to monitor it. Let's get into the details, guys, and discuss. But is that a fair way, Chris? You're kind of the arbiter here for what we think is fair and reasonable. Is that a fine way to describe how we're approaching our news gathering process here early on Monday morning?
Yeah, 1 was very much the rumor mill of yesterday, and 2 was sort of a specific thing that was said to me directly by somebody that I trust who would know about such a situation. That essentially the powers that be, and in this case, the powers that be are the AD, your president, and that board of trustees, but specifically the chair of the board of trustees, in this case, Peter Collins. Those are your big 3 in a decision such as this, that they kind of take a non-impulsive approach to how they do these things. I thought back, I was having a conversation with Liam from the Democrat yesterday when I dropped in on him and Brendan on campus after my flight landed. And it in some ways reminds me of a conversation we had with Michael Alford regarding Leonard Hamilton in season last year before the trip to the West Coast happened. And that kind of brought the end to the Leonard Hamilton era. It's funny how West Coast trips suddenly have become the death knell. It's a new Wake Forest, I guess.
Wake Forest is next on Florida State's schedule, by the way, after a bye week. Just putting it out there.
But the point is that they're not impulsive about this. They don't want to rush into it. They tend to take everything into account as the season goes and make decisions very quickly as the season comes to an end. I don't know if we're able to survive that timeline with the way things are going currently.
And I would say they should have had, well, there is enough information from last year to where you entered the season with the idea that this could have happened. Maybe not in 4 ACC losses in a row, but I guess what did you see from last year that led you to believe that you may not have to make a choice at some point? And I know the money for us has been like we don't think that makes it super palatable, and that has been the case. Like as of last week, going in before the Stanford game, there wasn't an appetite for people to put up money for it, and we still don't know if there's enough pooling of the funds to make this happen. I think that's part of one of the timelines that we're living on of why a move hasn't happened. I think administration is done with this, Chris.
I think they're very close to that. Yes. To answer your initial question there, though, they doubled down on this year. It was the investment in facilities. It was the investment in payroll of the roster, and it was investment in hiring new coordinators and doing some stuff to the staff.
But knowing how close you were to the brink, wouldn't it stand to reason that there should have been a break in case of emergency, doomsday scenario?
I'm sure there's an element of planning that out, but I think they also live from an optimistic view.
Don't we all sometimes?
Yeah. But do I think they plan for the possibility of it continues to go sideways? Yeah, I'm going to give the individuals we referenced earlier the benefit of the doubt there and believe, yes, they do that.
So quick question, like if they today announced that like this basically, warning shot that, hey, like we're not firing you, but we're closely monitoring the situation moving forward, doesn't that kind of speak to the fact that they weren't prepared?
No, I think that speaks more to trying to calm down the fan base than anything.
I think it would make the fan base more irate.
It'll calm down the fan base, but I think that messaging is directed more to the fan base than to the coach.
Well, yeah, anything publicly at this point is more to the fan base than the coach. Mike Norvell, in reporting that Chris Hummer at CBS Sports had yesterday, and I trust Chris here in this part of the process. He said that Mike Norvell told, I think it was players in a meeting.
Coaches.
Sorry, coaches.
The 4 p.m. meeting yesterday.
That he understands that his job is up in the air. Like I don't think he's
naive to it.
Yeah.
And my point was when I asked that question is like from what we've heard, it sounds like all the decision makers are out on Mike Norvell, but to me it sounds like the holdup is the financial side of things, which I think speaks to them not being prepared for a situation like this because they're making those financial calls now. When I think, if maybe after the Pitt loss, like do you do most of that work then? I don't know if any of them viewed as this situation going south so quickly.
I think they did at least put out feelers after the Pitt loss. I'm confident with that. I think the response was no, there's not an appetite for it. I think the visceral reaction to the Stanford game was so strong that it's now expedited that, and there probably are people stepping up who weren't maybe willing to before, but whether it's still enough people and if it's enough money, I don't know that. And I think that's kind of the in between of what you guys are saying here is that they are planning. There's an element of a plan, but none of the answers are particularly good right now. And
there's also the element of we're basically a week behind the timeline that Florida just went through, right? I mean, Florida spent the entire last week knowing that Billy Napier was going to get fired after coaching a football game. We're sort of in that realm.
He got fired after a win.
The rug is now being pulled out from underneath the head coach, both publicly and privately. And that seeps into the program and it impacts things. And ultimately, the outcome of it is still probably going to be the same, whether it's today or down the road within this season.
All right. So, because I have opinions on it, but before we get to the opinions, I want to make sure that we put out what we have reported and Chris mentioned, and that's that's probably one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle because it's really good sourcing of how they're approaching this. Here's what we know, and I'm going to pull up what we reported at Knowles 24/7 yesterday and kind of talk about this one timeline. So initially, like I said, things were slow in the morning as the team lands, and I think money makers and all sorts of people settle in from their travels of coming back from the late West Coast game, you start understanding that there's a sense of urgency to what's happening, and the general visceral response that this is not acceptable. Talked to one source who has close contact with a lot of national level agents, and they did say like that. The tone, the heat here is very different than it was a week ago. This has been heated up. And I think even from our standpoint of last week, we shook trees and then nothing popped out. Right. This week a ton started, and so it feels different, and I think that is important. And without revealing sources or whatnot, it's like when you kind of keep hearing the similar messaging that perks your ears up, and so there's something that we're chasing, right? Like so that's early in the morning. That's the first part of the day, probably by noon. All right, sorry, I'm going through here. There's Chris's note. All right, so later on, kind of in the evening, there was a rumor that circulated about Norvell that it could come Monday morning, that it probably wasn't going to be Sunday. And what we had heard is that Michael Alfred was traveling still. I think he had to go to Charlotte for ACC meetings. I think he'd also probably did some other traveling as well from Northern California that was pre-planned. Like he didn't go with the team. He went to the volleyball game, I think, the day before or so. So he didn't travel out with the football team. He didn't travel back with the football team. That was pre-planned. But he's not in Tallahassee like on Sunday evening to be having in-person conversation or be talking to his team in person if there's some conversation we had with Mike Norvell. Like so that's part of why this timeline through Sunday there was nothing. And that's here we are Monday morning. Where it takes us to the two timelines is there was a rumor, and I'd gotten text about it, almost all at the same time. It was all like around the 9 o'clock hour. It all starts with people saying that there's going to be how else to describe it, a strongly worded message that FSU will release from a press release standpoint. And it's not a vote of confidence. It would be more of like hey, this is a thorough evaluation and a constant evaluation of what's happening. That's what Chris alluded to earlier. But we also have people saying that the appetite to fire Mike Norvell exists at this point, and that some have said they think they have the money and some have said they don't. Other variables and things that we've tried to piece together. I've heard financing being brought up before from a couple different places. I don't know how legitimate that is, but that's something that we've heard from at least two places in terms of getting some of the money for a buyout. I've also talked about them trying to negotiate with Mike Norvell to cut down some of the buyouts, so that way, yeah, I have my skepticism that someone's going to turn away for all the
I'm
money.
playing the role of Jimmy Sexton in this conversation. Sorry.
No, but you could also say, and that's going to get us to the next point. The longer Mike stays here, and this happens with what we watched, if we do want to talk about Stanford and just this is clearly a team that's starting to check out. I know they played hard, but this is a team that's not taking messaging very well, very clearly. 13 penalties, just dysfunctional and body language, and it was not good. It was really, really bad. But the longer Mike Norvell stays here, the more his reputation, I think, becomes damaged. And so that would be the trade-off is like, hey, we'll set you free. You just, 30 million instead of 50 million. I'm very skeptical that that's something that an agent would allow to happen as well. So I think those are the pieces that we're dealing with. Is there anything else here before we kind of get into our reaction and then we decipher it a little bit further here?
Just two quick footnotes. After Pitt, the messaging was fed up, but that's a lot of money. That messaging has changed to a degree of fed up and just fed up. And secondly, on the buyout, I think most intelligent listeners understand this. It is not a lump sum buyout. It's not a FSU owes him the remainder of his contract if they fire him today, in the sense of they owe it to him today, tomorrow, or even this month. It is monthly payments through the duration of the contract.
You would then, though, need money to start adding to a new coaching staff as well. And so I think that's where you start talking about the finances. Like this is so let's just say you get rid of Mike Norvell. And to your point, not a lump sum. You get rid of Mike Norvell, you owe him, Brett did the math yesterday, $55 million and maybe a little bit more than that. And that's with what you owe him the rest of this year and the 85% of the remainder of his contract. And that could be done, I think, bi-weekly or monthly. But then you also have
$863,000 a month, I think is what somebody calculated yesterday. You can get by on that.
And then you have coordinators who you just added, and mind you, just fired them too. And that, I think, by the way, I just thought of this: the $4 million that Mike Norvell gave to the university is basically a loan that he gets back if he gets fired. It was done to have these changes get made, so that's another $4 million that we're not even accounting for there in some of our math. But you have those coordinators, you have staff members who have contracts going through this year, and you have players who paid up front with that have multiple year contracts that may not be retained. So this could be upwards of like an $80 million buyout when it's all said and done. I think that's the high end, but that's probably between 65 to 80 million. 65 is probably the low end. And so then you're also having to bring in a new coaching staff. And presumably, if you're making this move, there's different points of view here. But if you are in the timeline where you're making this move and you're making it now, you're doing it partially to throw your hat in the ring, too. As Penn State has opened up, as Florida has opened up, as Wisconsin officially opened up. They're about.
I don't think Luke's gotten fired yet, which is shocking, but hey.
Yeah, but it's all happening. It's happening fast, and you now have an in-state rival who's entering the market with you as well. And so those are all factors into this. But you would presumably be trying to make a splash higher, I would think. I don't think you get people to pay money to get rid of Mike Norvell, and then while there are a group of 6 coaches and staffs I think highly of, like at USF and Tulane, like I think those are 2 that would make sense, and those will be staffs that'll be at the Power 4 level. Like I don't think that's well received, and AD Alford's at this point, I think, very cognizant of attendance and booster support, and so you need someone who would inspire and allow that to get refiltered in. So that's kind of the math that you're working with there. I don't know, guys. I sit here, past 7:30 now. We're at 7:40. We want to get this pod up pretty soon. Not sure what the day brings. I thought for a decent time last night, right before going to bed around 9 o'clock. I think I finally went to sleep around 10, which for me is normal time. But we had chased news all day, and everything was pointing to there being something on Monday morning of a change. And now I don't know. I don't know what the day is going to bring. And I will say my initial reaction to that idea of there not being change is I don't understand how they're going to allow that to happen, other than they don't have any options, which is not good. But the optics of if you can put yourself in the mind of what Doak Campbell Stadium is going to be like after this bye. So you're going to have another weekend of week of letting this all simmer, of there not being anything to cleanse the palate of the Stanford loss of what the last year and a half has been. And then you're going to either ignore it, not reference it, or it's going to be an email saying, we're monitoring it. The amount of anger that is going to take place from the fan base, I would think, it's going to transcend past Mike Norvell, who would be, that's an awful, he's a professional making a lot of money. It's not a good position for him to be in either at this point. The amount of the questions he's going to be asked that he's not going to have good answers to. What it seems like, you're basically saying he's essentially a dead man walking professionally at Florida State at this point. It's not a good situation for him. But the anger is going to, those flames of angst are going to climb past Mike Norvell, and they're going to go to the administration. And that's what happens next if a move isn't made. And maybe I'm sure they're aware of that. There might be calculations of to what they think they can, how they can handle this timeline. But that is the next step of this, is that the anger is going to be how can you allow this product to remain? Multiple people, multiple friends who are considered rational. I'd even consider Brett rational, but there are people who are, Brett's head just shot around, who are just angry and over this, and who love Florida State. And this isn't a matter of this isn't acceptable. It's now embarrassing.
What
was that, Chris?
The other group is apathy. The people that have checked out on it.
There's no one who the support's not there anymore. That's done.
Yeah, I think it was done after Pitt. Stanford just reinforced it. I mean,
they don't have money to bring in recruits. The people giving money to help out with shadow recruit, that's done. the faucet's off.
I have no bloodlust in saying it, but it's time to fire Mike Norvell. Like I don't really get why there's any hesitation outside of the financial portion of it. And at this point, like you're just throwing money at a problem. Like, yeah, it's going to be expensive to fire him. It's going to be expensive to go hire the person you believe can get this thing back on the track and run this program as it should be operated. But like that's the cost of business.
Yeah, and I mean, like you were talking about potentially waiting or whatever, right? Like there's just no world where you can wait. Like the buyout money doesn't change, and even when it does next year, it's only $8 million less. And are you really going to tell me that you would ever consider that? Like waiting an entire year of just knowing that this coach is going to be fired to save $8 million.
With the recruiting implications there, Zach.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. Like I mean the recruiting like this year. I mean we all know that how that story is going to end. We don't need to get into that, but yeah, I mean you just need to reset. Like what Chris wrote after the game. This program needs a reset. I mean, there's just like if you want to talk about some like I don't want to talk about what actually happened in the game, but like the players are checking out. I think the players quit on Mike Norvell. Not all the players, because they came back and tried to win that game, whatever you want to say. But there was reporting by Chris Hummer that in the locker room after the game, they were mocking Mike Norvell's respond, messaging.
When Willie Taggart was like, I mean, he lost that in the first year, but I remember there was players like who were chastising him for like going down to IMG Academy, and there was like a practice got rained out. And I was one of the linebackers. I can't remember who. It was just like, so we left our indoor practice facility to drive for 4.5 hours to not practice. And I mean, once that seeps into it, like the writing's on the wall. Guys quit on Willie Taggart pretty quickly and into that season. Sorry, that's important.
No, another important note from that game was the video that came out of Norvell going at Edwin Joseph on the sideline, and Edwin Joseph just basically brushing him off and not
the first time that's happened. That happened at Notre Dame last year with those two. The exact same thing happened.
Yeah, and I've heard that it happens very often in practice between those two. And then obviously we know about the Conrad Hussey situation from earlier this fall, where he got into an altercation with a coach. So, yeah, I mean, it's just he's lost the locker room. They're regressing in every single facet of the game. I can't fathom, from both like the university standpoint and also from like a Mike Norvell standpoint, how you let this continue.
Here's questions I have. Like if we do talk to Mike Norvell on Wednesday. And this is like very like direct that he needs to be able to answer. And that's like, this is what you're putting him in, I think, in this type of situation to where other people are going to be asking similar questions. Like he said last November, he's the right man for the job. Does he still believe that? Okay. Is he bothered by the lack of like eye contact he gets from his players when he's talking to them before halftime? Like that's the body language is bad. Is that, what does that say? Does he still have the team? Does he have enough of the team to consistently win? He's going to have to answer that directly. Is this a quick, immediate fix? Is that still on the table? If so, why? Why does that still exist in your mind? And like that man's going to have to answer that and either say yeah, it's not, or he's going to have to basically not tell the truth. Like this can't happen. And so as I'm going to finish this up, like as we get into what today is, it's going to be, I think, an explosive day. That's the one thing I would be surprised with today is if there's nothing, no commentary, no development with Mike Norvell's coaching status, and it's just quiet. I don't think that's where it's at, but what exactly happens, I don't know. Anything before we go, guys? I think, Chris, your point was salient and you stuck to your landing. Like it's time. Okay. Let's get out of here then. We'll talk to you guys maybe later today. We'll be in touch. We'll be, check out Notes 24/7 as well. We'll be providing what we know, be transparent with what we don't know. We're working, we're grinding, we're trying to figure it out. We're piecing it together. We'll talk to you guys soon.